YouTube. I hope you guys have been staying safe from all the storms. I know this past week has been wild, huh? All across South Central, Central, Southeast, it's been wild. Tons of well, I guess you could call it a tornado outbreak, if you will. I know we had a bad one go through my state, man. Had a bad one. I'm safe where I was located. I'm perfectly fine. The only thing we got some strong winds. We went without power for a few hours. Some people went a couple days. I couldn't upload for a couple days due to I had no internet for like 2.5 days. Not gonna complain because things could have been a lot worse. I'm thankful we were fine. But yeah, as you can tell too, I am still sick. Hopefully in a few more days we'll finally be able to speak normal. But today, Mayfield, Kentucky. This one's been heavily requested several times. We're finally to it. So let's check it out.
When you think of December, you normally wouldn't expect to hear much about tornadoes. However, in 2021, December tornadoes were anything but scarce. This EF4 tornado happened on December 10th, 2021, in the Boot Heel of Missouri. And this is the same storm a few hours later. A different...
So there's like technically two tornado seasons, right? You have spring and then you have fall. Dude, it's crazy to see a tornado in December, though. I didn't know that was a thing.
Tornado completely decimating the entire town of Mayfield, Kentucky, which would eventually go on to break records. In this video, we're going to take a...
Kentucky was the one that got hit. Well, I mean, several places got hit. But it went from Russellville. It started like in Russellville, went through Somerset, and hit London, and then traveled towards Hazard before it lifted. It was like 55, 56 miles traveled. It got up to a mile wide and ended up getting a final rating of EF4. But what's even crazier than that, the supercell that produced that tornado originated in central Missouri. So, I mean, this supercell traveled hundreds of miles and put down several tornadoes, from my understanding.
Look at the events that caused this to happen, and dive deeper into one of the most historic December tornado outbreaks and one of the most historic tornadoes in history. Statistically, the most active tornado period every year is generally during the months of March through May. Some people, however, may not actually realize that tornadoes aren't exactly uncommon during the late season into the winter months as well. If we take December as an example,
learn something new every day.
statistically, December has an average of 24 tornadoes across the United States every year, which isn't very many compared to the spring months, but they're still tornadoes nonetheless.
May tornadoes? That number seems kind of low in comparison to what I've been seeing this year. Especially in Kentucky, Tennessee, Alabama, and Arkansas. Like, those numbers right there seem kind of low.
People don't think December gets any tornadoes at all. With this little bit of context moving forward, let's take a look at what 2021 put on the table. December of 2021 statistically was absolutely insane. It crushed all December tornado records by a long shot, where it more than doubled the existing tornado count record for December set in 2002. December of 2021 really boiled down to 2 days in particular which really gave it its name. December 10th and December 15th. I will briefly be touching on December 15th later in this video as it is also a very significant tornado.
120 tornadoes in one day?
But But first, we need to look at the build-up to one of the most significant December tornado outbreaks in history, which went to produce the longest track tornado and one of the most violent tornadoes of the decade.
Alright, here we go. December 10th.
About a week in advance, long-range weather models began to show slight hints of a potential significant tornado outbreak that was originally supposed to happen on the 11th. Over time, though, it would actually shift toward the night of the 10th instead of the 11th. The Storm Prediction Center issued a slight risk across the region 3 days in advance, highlighting the possibility for a potential tornado outbreak over the region, but there were still some uncertainties in the forecast. Weather models would continue to show the same volatile conditions as before, and by the morning of the 10th, a level 4 out of 5 moderate risk was issued over the entire region.
4 out of 5, man. I feel like the last week, you could pretty much draw a line around half the country, from central, south central, over to east and southeast. And I feel like we've been 4 out of 5 for like the last week. It's been insane.
Highlighting the concern for significant tornadoes. It was obvious at the time that this wasn't your regular December tornado setup. Temperatures were soaring into the mid-70s across the entire warm sector, as well as large amounts of moisture being brought with it. A very large and potent low-pressure system loomed off to the west, slowly churning its way eastward, which would bring extremely dangerous amounts of wind shear with it. It was practically a mid-spring tornado event. You do not see setups like this in December very often at all. All there was to do at this point was wait until the afternoon and see what happened. And finally, a few hours before sundown, a few very small storms would begin to sporadically fire in the open warm sector. The show was about to begin. Around 3 p.m., the first signs of storms beginning to form became evident in satellite images as well as on radar. One of these storms was forming just to the southwest of Little Rock, Arkansas.
Oh, with that said, I've been watching High Velocity and those guys, and their ability to read these radars is absolutely insane. I'm gonna try to get real good at it. But does any of you guys have any recommendations on what kind of radar to use? Because it would just be cool to know how.
As it began to slowly track northeast, conditions were continuing to improve for tornado genesis into the night, and around 5:50, the storm began to rapidly organize and was given a tornado warning for the first time of the day. We didn't realize this at the time, but this storm would go on to be the most memorable one of the year, for all the wrong reasons. As the storm passed just to the southeast of Jonesboro, Arkansas around 7 p.m., it showed...
Oh no, it's going to be dark. We're in December here. It's going to be pitch black. Oh, that's horrible.
Signs that it was beginning to rapidly organize and wanted to do something big. The already apparent mesocyclone, which had been persistently rotating...
Sorry if I can't... I'll try to stop pausing here soon. But I just seen Lake City. Lake City had a big tornado earlier this month, right? Arkansas had a huge tornado. With that said, nighttime tornadoes are... that's what happened, same thing through Somerset and London, man. It's one thing to have daylight and you're kind of able to see the tornado, but man, when you can't even see where it's coming from, and then you take into effect if it's rain wrapped, dude, they're so dangerous.
For hours on end before, began to consolidate just to the southwest of Monette, Arkansas. The storm had already produced a few short-lived, weaker tornadoes back off to the southwest. This time, though, the storm had different plans. The birth of the Monette, Arkansas EF4 marked the beginning of this storm's unfortunate legacy. Monette was the first town to be directly impacted by this tornado, in which multiple buildings were destroyed within the town, a few of them getting rated EF3. After it continued northeast, unfortunately, There really wasn't much documented of this tornado, as most of the chasers were situated to the northeast near the town of Caruthersville. The tornado continued to impact many structures as it plowed northeast, and at the intersection of State Highway J and County Highway 407,
originated in Arkansas.
2 homes were completely obliterated down to their foundations. These homes gave this tornado an EF4 rating, with maximum estimated wind speeds of 170 miles an hour. Just outside of Caruthersville, Missouri, Max Olson, who was a storm chaser, was positioned waiting for the storm to pass close to his position. In my opinion, he arguably got the most...
Dude, what an absolute monster. Absolute monster. And at nighttime. Like, dude, that's just so scary. Like, last night, we had, of course, a bunch of, well, okay, by last night, by the time I put this video out, it is May 21st, so we're talking about May 20th here, when we was getting some real bad storms. I stayed up, like, super late, just making sure nothing was going to go south. So, we're sick and sleep deprived here.
Impressive footage of this tornado during its lifetime. As it continued plowing northeast, the tornado barely threaded the needle between the towns of Caruthersville and Haiti, and would continue to track northeast into western Tennessee, where, after 81 miles, it would finally dissipate. Unfortunately, within that 81-mile path, it killed 9 people and injured 16 more.
R.I.P.
As this initial tornado dissipated, though, the storm didn't let up. The storm was rapidly cycling, preparing for its next monster tornado, and as it was doing so, a barrage of weaker tornadoes would quickly drop. As the time approached 8:45 p.m., the storm was ready to do it again. Only this time, many more towns and many more helpless people were directly in the path, and there was nothing anybody could do about it. At 8:55, immediately to the west of Woodland Mills, one of the most infamous tornadoes of the decade would begin its long journey across Kentucky and cement this day into history.
Oh, dude, I already got cold chills, boys.
After the birth of the Mayfield tornado, almost immediately after forming, it went on to completely obliterate the small town of Casey, Kentucky, immediately producing EF4 damage.
Oh, let's have a look, boys. Splintering trees, debarking. Strong, dude. One thing I learned. When it starts debarking trees and splintering them in half like that.
Mayfield was the next town in the path. A town with a population of just under 10,000 people. And the worst thing about it is there's nothing you can do. All you can do is hope for the best and watch. And around 9:25,
get underground if you can. Get underground.
The tornado began to approach the southwestern part of town. There, it would completely obliterate an entire candle factory, which unfortunately had many workers still inside of it at the time. Immediately after, it went on to decimate the entire town. These higher radar returns you see here is not because of rain or hail. That is all debris being detected as it was lofted into the air over the town. A significant debris spike was also evident, which is only a key feature on some of the most damaging tornadoes that have ever occurred. In only a few minutes, the tornado had completely gone through town and completely decimated everything, and it went on to do the exact same thing to many other towns, unfortunately, in the path. Areas in and around Benton, completely gone. Cambridge Shores, obliterated. Princeton, unrecognizable.
Oh my word. Will they give Mayfield an end rating of EF4? Dude, this tornado was wide, too. I wonder how wide it was. Because that damage area is crazy. I tell you something that always shocks me, too, is you look... you have this brown building slightly up and to the right, the center of the screen. Heavy damage. And then you look just right of it. There's a white house with like a gray roof. And it looks perfectly fine. Or even at the very top of your screen with the long white driveway, gray roof again. Fine. But if you step just across the road, absolutely obliterated.
Dawson Springs, also completely obliterated. Bremen, a war zone.
There it is, dude. I was waiting on that shot right there with some lightning to be able to see it proper. That's a massive tornado. Massive. I bet that's every bit of getting close to being a mile wide. Right?
This town is where some of the most intense damage caused by this tornado was observed. Multiple well-built homes were...
Had that already been cleared off? Or was it like that when they found it? Because, oh my God. That looks like a hot water heater to the left there.
Were swept completely clean, with much of the debris being wind...
My goodness, dude. Once again, trees debarked. That minivan there is... seen better days. Yo, it almost looks like a trailer there. Is that a trailer? I mean, a portion of it is still standing, which surprises me, because usually mobile homes, leveled. Paper-thin walls.
Road and granulated. Also, portions of somebody's foundation from a well-constructed home along Stratner Lane was torn and thrown. This damage could have very well been some of the worst damage.
Dude, there is a tree through the windshield to the back. Oh my goodness. I remember whenever I used to say, I'd hop in a car and run. And this is why people always tell me not to do that.
Damage seen in nearly a decade. This tornado went on for 166 miles doing the exact same thing, until finally, just west of Hilton Hills, it would dissipate, almost 3 hours after it began. The storm would continue on and produce a few weak, short-lived tornadoes, and finally bit the dust the following morning.
That has to be one of the longest times recorded, right, of a tornado being on the ground. I knew everyone thought it was insane when the tornado went from Somerset to London. It was on the ground for 2 hours. I actually watched live coverage on that the entire time. It was 2 hours, and it traveled 55, 56 miles. And this one here did, 166 miles.
The night of the 10th was over. Keep in mind, though, this video was only discussing the Mayfield supercell, that there were multiple other storms that formed the same night. One producing a tornado that tracked over 122 miles just to the south of the Mayfield supercell. All there was to do now was wait until the next morning. And when the sun finally rose, it revealed the absolute carnage caused by the nighttime tornadoes.
So I went to Dawson Springs a few days after the tornado. Just imagine a 200-yard wide swath of just complete granulation of everything. Everything was gone.
You know, it's easy to get caught up in looking at, just being in awe of the damage these tornadoes can cause. But if you look to the right there, that's someone's life just scattered about. All those clothes, everything's just tossed around like nothing.
I saw 2 apartment complexes that were just leveled, concrete parking spots removed. There's some pretty large, industrial buildings that were slabbed also. But again, virtually every single structure that was in the middle of that tornado was just swept away, and not just damaged, but debris hundreds of yards away and just shredded. I mean, it's just unbelievable what it did there.
The damage left behind by the Mayfield tornado was so intense for such a long distance that it's almost impossible for me to explain everything.
What a picture. What a picture. I mean, look at the damage path, how wide. I mean, the only thing still, almost everything there's obviously destroyed, right? I mean, it's going to have to be finished. If it's not completely tore down, they're going to have to finish doing so. But the only thing still standing is barely the frames of some of these homes. Like a portion of those frames. Such a strong tornado. Wait, at the very top of the screen there, do you guys see a house that's doesn't seem to be bothered? Is there a picture of that?
It did in one video.
Oh, hold on. You guys see that, right? Very top of the screen. That blows my mind. Once again, it's the people that live there can step out their door and it's just destruction all around them. That's crazy.
Video. Every single town it impacted over 160 miles had the same violent damage. So I will be providing a picture with a list of some of the more extreme sections of damage Caleb made.
I'm going to pause here. Obviously, I'm going to read a little bit too, but just give you guys a little bit of a chance to have a look at it as well. Jesus, man. 2 large silos from the ground with no trace of them. The other found 300 to 500 yards and slabbed a 2-story home near Forks Road in Baltimore.
You can pause the video and read them if you'd like. December 10th caused $3.9 billion in damages, as well as unfortunately claiming the lives of 89 people and injuring 672 more. 58 of those fatalities were from the Mayfield tornado alone. It was the longest track tornado in Kentucky history, as well as one of the strongest, having maximum estimated wind speeds up to 190 miles an hour based off the damage done. As it was already considered a historic December in terms of tornadoes, it didn't help that only 5 days later, out in the Midwest, December 15th would go on to produce 120 tornadoes within an 8-hour period. The 15th produced more tornadoes than the 10th. However, December 10th produced much stronger tornadoes overall, as the strongest tornadoes during the 15th were rated at maximum EF2. In total, more than $5 billion in damages were done in December from tornadoes as well as straight-line winds. The Mayfield tornado will most likely stay as the most historic December tornado for many years, as well as one of the most tragic. Large tornadoes were expected to happen that day, but you could never expect something as significant and historic as that tornado was. Central Kentucky, as well as many other areas that were impacted, are now forever changed. Fortunately, though, recovery efforts from the major tornadoes on the 10th are still going on today. It will take years to rebuild what was lost. However, it will never be the same as it was. You can always rebuild property, but lives are irreplaceable, and 89 of them were unfortunately lost on that fateful December day.
Dude, holy. I get in December. So like April, May, I get. Maybe I get it. Yeah, that seems like to be the hot spot, especially May for tornadoes. But in December, like you're getting close to Christmas, you're getting in the holiday spirit, things are like cooled off, and this happens. Holy moly, dude. Such a strong tornado. And on top of that, an EF4. Like had winds up to 190 miles an hour and traveled 166 miles. I thought it was crazy that this most recent one that just happened a couple days ago that went 56 miles was insane. So this storm had to be traveling super fast. Because, 3 hours, 166 miles. And then I'm reverting back to the most recent storm, 56 miles in 2 hours. Like, this storm had to be moving. And it leaves me in awe when you look at these pictures of, like, the destruction, and then you'll randomly see a house just right across the road that's perfectly fine. Dude, that has to be so scary. You step out and like you're okay, but what lays in front of you is just pure destruction. Like there's that feeling of like, thank goodness I'm safe, but oh my God. Man. I knew I've heard of a tornado happening in December, but I thought it was such a rare event. And what we had 120 on the 15th, and then like several on the 10th. So you had like over 200 tornadoes in December in the span of a week. You're just never safe, man. And Kentucky falls under Dixie Alley, right? Not Tornado Alley, but Dixie Alley. And my understanding of that is like it's more moist, if I can use that word. So, like, the tornadoes in Dixie Alley are more likely to be rain-wrapped. Is how I had it explained to me. I may be wrong there. Somebody can correct me down below. But RIP, man, to all the people that lost their lives there. That's so sad, dude. And I get it. I mean, you had so many whammies there. You're in December. So, like, it's not exactly something you're looking for in comparison to like a month like May. And it's nighttime, so you're going to have people that are laying down. It's in December. They don't have anything to worry about. I'm curious, how did the warnings go? Did people have ample warning? That would be a good one. I'd like to know that information. Was there a good warning system in play here? But holy man, December EF4 traveling 166 miles through Kentucky is absolutely insane. Absolutely insane. I would throw out names of people that recommended this video, but there's been so many. I'd be willing to say a dozen plus. You know who you are. Thank you all for recommending this one. I appreciate it. But I am cheap. Thank you all for watching. If you enjoyed the video, like, subscribe, and all that good stuff. And we'll catch you in the next one.